Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So after a short break, I've decided to make this video because currently Croatian team junior championship is taking place, and there we have some of the best Croatian young players playing there, and I thought it would be nice to introduce some of them right now. And I was particularly impressed by one game that I'm going to analyze here in the video, and it was played between Livaic Leon and Ivekovic Božidar. So, Livaic Leon is probably one of the greatest talents Croatia has to offer right now. As you can see here, his rating is 2358 and he's a fight master. And you have to bear in mind that he's still very young. Okay, I'm an idiot and I didn't check how old exactly he is, but I think around 14 or 15 years. So yeah, very high rating for very young age. And I can't resist but to tell one quick story that I've personally had experience with him, because I've known him obviously for quite some time, and a couple of years ago we've both played in the Split Open chess tournament, and we were staying at the same hotel, and at that time he was rated somewhere near me, so we were in like 10 points rating difference or maybe even less. And we did play a lot of blitz chess, and I think I'm not that bad blitz player. I think I'm actually quite decent, but I was getting crushed in one game after another, and I've started to I went totally desperate, and in one game, Leon saw that, and he told me, "Why don't you play the bird opening?" And I did play. I played f4, and he immediately played e5. Of course, I've never played f4 probably in my life, and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So I took here, and this is the starting position of the so-called from gambit. And of course I didn't know the move at the time. Actually, I still don't know the move here, but since I was getting crushed one game after another, I started to believe my opponent everything he was doing, and he told me here, Vieko, the strongest move here is h3. And I played h3 instantly, after which he played bishop g3 and mated me in only 4 moves. So yeah, that was really embarrassing. I hardly need to say that after that many blitz games we both did rather poorly in that tournament, and it was not a tournament we will both remember gladly. So yeah, okay. But as you can see, his rating has jumped quite for a huge amount since then, and I think he has been working and maturing constantly, and I think we can expect great things from him in the future, which this game will also prove. With the black pieces, we had Ivekovic Božidar, and he is one of the sons and daughters of the famous Ivekovic family, which is famous in Croatia because all members play chess, and all members have, I think, won Croatian junior championships, and they're actually quite famous, and we can see here that he has also reached quite high level, and he is also very strong fight master. I think somewhat older than Leon, but yeah, still very young, very perspective. So yeah, it was clash on the highest level in the Croatian junior chess. So let's look at the game now after this lengthy but I think necessary introduction. So Leon is obviously knows a lot of theory. He's one of the best prepared players I can say in Croatia probably, but in tournament games he's mainly a d4 player, and after the initial move d4, knight f6, c4, e6, he played knight c3, inviting the Nimzo-Indian defense with bishop b4, because I think he's playing that as black as well. I think he's quite familiar with it, and he clearly doesn't object to allowing that move. But Ivekovic Božidar, I think he has always played the Benoni in his career, and he chose to do so here, and this is the c5. And I will take a short break here because just to say a few words about the opening, because Benoni has generally become a suspect opening, and at the highest level it is played not that often. The late Vugar Gashimov, who unfortunately is now dead, has played the Benoni regularly on the highest level, and just a couple of days in a Kennedy's tournament, the world number 2 or 3 Fabiano Caruana also played it, but even so it is still considered risky. On the other hand, on the lower levels in Croatia it is very, very popular, and there are lots of people who are playing it regularly. So after the moves d5, ed5, cd5, d6. There is a lot of theory, I won't go into that here. And Livaic chose the continuation e4, g6, f4. The idea of this continuation is to obviously to play for e5 as fast as possible. And after bishop g7, the main move of this variation is bishop b5 check. This creates some confusion in ranks of black, because black doesn't have clear way, an easy way to cover this check. For instance, if he plays something like knight b to d7, then e5 is very strong. And then he takes and plays knight h5, then e6, and this is also a variation. And here after queen h4, there is g3, or also king d2 is very possible. Yeah, okay, g3, knight takes g3, a takes g3, queen takes h1, and I think that here white is better. This is not a very good variation for black, I think. Okay, and also if he tries to interfere with the check with another piece, with the bishop, then also e5, d takes e5, e takes e5 is even better for white. Knight h5, knight f3, and here with this pawn duo here, I think white has a clear advantage. So yeah, okay, Ivekovic, being the experienced player that he is, he played the best move, knight fd7, which prevents e5. And here we will see the drawback of this variation for white, since now with the bishop on b5, quick a6 and b5 becomes rather feasible. Okay, and white played knight f3, and after a6, bishop d3, v5. This is, I would say, the B of this variation. I've read somewhere, I think in my great predecessors, I can't remember where, that in the old times, white players would almost always play a4 and prevent this b5 break by the black. But nowadays, they most often allow it and then try to soften the black queenside structure with a4 and then winning c4 square in the process, etc, etc. Of course, the drawback is that value of each move is now very high, and with b4 or c4, black can gain quite some space on the queen side, and he can put some pressure on the center. Okay, but that's I'm not really familiar with this line, and I don't know what the best move order is, and I will not even pretend to try to suggest something. Okay, because anyway, the most interesting things in this game happen much later. Okay, so after castles, Leon played queen e1. It's a very interesting move. The queen is heading for g3 to support even e5 or maybe f5, then creating some threats and attack against the black king. I'm not sure whether this plan is the most dangerous for black. I mean, I think black can find an antidote, but okay, in practical games without preparation it's not that easy, so definitely a possibility. Okay, and here black played bishop b7. And I've actually consulted Leon about some of the variations, and here he told me that was the first time he saw this move, and that he just played normally, and he played the plan he was intending to do on any other move. Of course, I've asked him to see this analysis, and he told me that he has nothing to object, which probably means that he was just didn't bother at all, and he would just like, get the fuck out, I'm reaching my 204,000 in the league. Okay, so yeah, after bishop, the main move here is rook e8, after queen g3, c4, bishop c2. I guess what black can consider knight f6, knight c5, b4. There are all sorts of moves. And after, for instance, b4, knight a4, knight f6, we have a double-edged position, and we see here that e4 pawn is under attack. Maybe e5 is the move here. Maybe I'm not actually sure how white is going to defend it, but yeah, okay. I will stop here and say it's double-edged. Okay, so bishop b7, queen g3, rook e8, and now, and I'm not here. White played bishop d2, and here I'm not really sure, and he didn't explain to me why didn't he go f5 immediately. Okay, the problem with this move is that it now allows the black knight to e5 square before black has committed to b4. But even so, this bishop on d2 isn't doing anything, and now he can actually develop somewhere on g5, maybe if f4 or somewhere. Okay, so f5, and here black has a decision to make, and we can see here that he's somewhat lagging in development. This knight on b8 is still out of the play. Okay, so for instance, black can go knight f6, but here bishop g5 is kinda unpleasant. And after, if black goes c4 and b4, and for instance b4, then after knight a4, queen c7, he can take here on f6 and play knight g5 with some dangerous initiative. For instance, I will just give here some approximate variation, which is very beautiful. For instance, if knight d7, he can take here, and he can play queen h3, sacrificing this knight, because after bishop takes g5, he has this beautiful sacrifice, rook takes f7. As they say, this is both from the blue, and after king takes f7, queen h7 check, king f8, rook f1 check, bishop f6. He now here has rook takes f6 check, and after black takes, queen on c7 fold. For instance, that was the idea if black played queen c7. You have to note here that all this wouldn't have been possible if black didn't play b4. Because without the knight on a4, there would be queen b6 check in this position, and then black could play all this because queen wouldn't be hanging on c7. So yeah, that's why I wrote here that b4 is not the best. And also, for instance, if he goes knight bd7 instead of queen c7, then white can simply take on g6 and take on d6, and again, we will see here that this queen isn't hanging. For instance, after rook e5, he can just take on b4, and that's all. This variation we'll understand later why this is important and what's the difference without b4. For instance, if black goes here, queen c7, then after bishop takes f6, knight g4, knight d7, the same as in the previous variation without b4, then queen h3 is not possible because black takes, and on rook takes f7 we have queen b5, b6 check, and on the end of the variation this queen won't be hanging on c7, and here actually black is winning. So yeah, okay, black can try something else. He can go for c4, bishop c2, b4 for instance, but then again f takes, h takes, knight a4, knight f6, and here also knight g5 is possible, and here again queen takes d6 is now not possible. Okay, so yeah, there is okay, this is just all illustrative. Black maybe has some defense, but I think that with immediate f5 white would create immediate crisis, and I think in practical terms it's a bit harder for black to defend. Okay, and here he played bishop d2, black played b4, which is actually not a bad move, but only because if it is followed up correctly. Of course, he can go c4, bishop c2, and now knight f6, and we see here that there is no bishop g5 because f5 hasn't been played yet. But then again, after f5, queen c7, he has to go knight g5, knight bd7, and actually black is in time to finish development. I think he would stand okay, and actually the first suggestion of computer is to play bishop e3, again moving the bishop. So yeah, I think that's why f5 immediately instead of bishop d2 was a bit more precise. Okay, but b4 also not very bad, and after knight a4, I think black started to lose the thread a bit, or missed the best continuation. Simply he played queen a5, forcing the bishop on the square where he wants to go anyway. Black had the possibility of knight b6, and after knight takes b6, queen takes b6, white can't avoid this move. There's no good alternative really. And after queen takes b6, now c4 is threatened, and white has to lose another tempo. and he plays queen h1, knight d7, and black is just in time to finish development. And after the f5, there is this fearless bishop takes b2, f takes g6, f takes g6, rook a b1, and bishop g7. And I think that here white has compensation for the pawn, but nothing decisive, and he has to prove it. Optically speaking, black is doing fine. I think he has the e5 square, and I think it's very hard to prove the compensation. Okay, so yeah, definitely knight b6 was a very good move. Queen a5 is not very precise, I think, because it removes the queen from the king's side and actually invites the attack. So yeah, after queen a5, bishop c2. Now white is threatening f5. He intends to go f5 and continue and go on with his attack. Black played knight f6, and here white played f5. I think that here e5 was also possible, and it's even more dangerous. It's very dangerous, but also it's somewhat computer move, because after knight takes d5, there is f5, just pushing the pawns, and it's very hard for black to find a reply here. For instance, if he takes on e5 with a bishop, it doesn't work, because white takes on e5, rook takes on e5, f takes on g6, h takes g6, and here bishop takes g6 is just winning on the spot. You can try to work out the variations for yourself, but it is kind of obvious that black doesn't have very good defense. Also, after rook takes e5, it doesn't help either, because after knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, there is this beautiful queen sacrifice, f takes g6, which is quite brilliant, and after black takes the queen, g takes f7, king f8, bishop h6, king e7, black will probably get mated. Okay, but it's hard not to blame the Livaic for not seeing all this, and it's not very human, and f5 is much more logical, much more natural. Okay, and he told me, yeah, as I've said, that f5 he has seen in positions without bishop on b7, so with bishop on b7 it's also probably even more reason to play so, because it is not controlling this square. Okay, so f5, and here black played knight takes e4, which is the logical follow-up of his preceding play. The whole point of his play was to destroy white center, but this move is quite, I think, dangerous. He had to kind of admit his mistake and go queen c7, bringing the queen back, and that was actually almost the only move. And after knight g5, knight bd7, queen h4, knight f5, white can't pursue this attack here. He has to go for something else, but if he tries to pursue, everything is defended. He's probably maybe even worse already with this knight out of the play, and with all his pieces scattered around. So yeah, he has to go. He can't go this. He has to go something positional, like, I don't know, rook somewhere or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Knight takes e4. White Leon took the knight, black recaptured with the rook, and here this is another critical moment in the game. Leon took on g6 actually, but it's not clear why. Knight g5 was almost winning on the spot, just to invert the move order, because black basically doesn't have a move here. Because if he tries to sacrifice the exchange, as we will see he will try to do in the actual game, it doesn't help here, because after queen h3, rook e2, this is the variation we will see later with f takes g6, h takes g6 included. Now it doesn't help. White can take here, king f8, and now there is this move, knight e6, and whatever black does, he is getting mated. He can take on three different ways. The best is rook takes e6, f takes e6, bishop takes e6, bishop h6, and black is busted here. After bishop takes x6, actually the strongest move is this move, threatening to take here. If black moves his bishop, then there is mate on h8, and yeah, it is quite obvious here that white is winning. Also, if he takes with the pawn, he'll get mated after f takes e6. But okay, it's very hard to see those nuances without computer. And if black tries rook e2, then white can simply take and go queen f3 and rook a1 with devastating attack. Okay, and after f takes g6, this actually gives black a hidden chance and an amazing possibility to save the game. So after black recaptured on g6, knight g5. Okay, here queen d6 was also possible, and after queen takes a4, but this is already sacrificing a whole piece now instead of just a pawn. And after knight g5, this is the only move that keeps black in the game. And after white takes on e4, this is unclear endgame. Maybe around equal after bishop takes d5, but okay. Knight g5 is the best move, posing some problems. And here we will see black play rook d4. We will see why this loses. Any other rook move also loses. But first we will analyze the most critical line, and this is bishop d5, sacrificing the exchange. If white were to take this exchange with knight e4, it doesn't bring him much joy, because when he takes on e4, this knight is hanging, so the strongest is rook e1, queen takes a4, rook takes on e4, and queen d7, and probably I'm not even sure about the evaluation of this endgame. I think black would be quite happy to reach this position. He has decent compensation for the exchange. His pawn structure is really stable, and he doesn't have any weaknesses really. Okay, it's very hard to suggest what white's next move should be, in my opinion. Okay. We will also see why rook e7, which was slightly better because it defends f7. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Here, after bishop takes d5, Leon actually told me that he was intending to go queen h3. And here, black has the amazing possibility to go rook e2. And he has saved himself with series with only moves. Of course, it was very hard to see all this. After queen h7, queen f8, rook takes f7, otherwise rook will take on g2, bishop takes f7, rook f1, this is looking threatening, but after rook a7, queen takes g6, there is this mechanism, bishop d4 check, king h1 and rook f2, and I think white will have some perpetual, but not more. At the maximum is draw. I think also that queen c7 here and the sacrifice of the queen doesn't lose, but okay, it still allows white to play on and try to look for some chances. Okay, yeah. Okay, but everything is very unclear, very hard to see all those nuances. Okay, and rook e7 trying to defend the f7 would still lead to the same sacrifice which happened in the game, because after queen h4 and bishop d5 defending f7, queen h7 check, king f8, there is again this sacrifice, knight takes f7, and when black captured, there is bishop h6, and we thought here that now bishop h6 is possible because there is no mate on f7, but unfortunately with rook on e7 there is this mate on h8. And actually I've just now realized, because I haven't bothered to check what happens after rook takes f7. I'm not really sure, but I guess again white can just take here and go rook f1 probably, or I don't know, or maybe he can just go bishop g6 or queen takes g6 with that, I think, very strong attack, winning attack. Or maybe again bishop h6. There are various possibilities. I'm not really sure. I forgot to check this with computer. I'm just looking this from the top of my head, and okay, maybe I should have done that earlier, but it is what it is, as Nakamura would say. Okay, but now knight g5, rook d4, trying, I don't know, attacking another piece, but now white breaks through with queen h3, and it's almost all over, because after bishop takes d5, queen h7, king f8, there is this knight takes f7, as we have seen in the previous variation. Here Livaic doesn't even have the choice to take with the rook, so he has to take with the bishop, and after bishop h6 it is basically all over, because now black can't take on h6, because if he takes here then there is mate on f7, so he tried taking the knight on a4, but now Leon played queen takes g7. He could have played rook e1 with the queen h8 or queen takes f7 on next move, but okay, as it is, he took here, he took on f7 and took here, and now rook is threatened, mate is threatened, everything is threatened, and here black resigned. So yeah, I think this game indicates it's not size, the amount of talent that Leon possesses, and I think this shows all the virtues of his style, great opening preparation, very clear strategical ideas and thinking, combined with very accurate calculation and very good tactical play when necessary. So yeah, I consider him now one of the greatest talents, together with Plenchai Adranko, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I think he also deserves credit. They both have 100% in the junior league now. They are playing excellent chess, and they are having all the predispositions to become very good grandmasters one day, I think, if they continue. And if they will have enough support and if they continue working. Okay, but that remains to be seen, of course. Yeah, well, anyway, that's all for today, guys. All the best for the Easter, and see you soon, I hope. Goodbye.